things are going to be a little bit more fluid. You're going to have a little bit more time to be flexible due to the breakdown of the lesson. So we'll start with day one. Day one will be your greetings and attendance. You need to make sure that the students have access to a tablet, that the students have access to the reading, and that the students are well prepared for the lesson. This may take a little while if you need to distribute the reading. You'll then go into your summary. Your summary should last between 15 to 20 minutes. The summary will focus on the reading material that you have done in the previous lessons. So for example, if you are on lesson 5, you will summarize the reading that you have done from lesson 1 all the way to lesson 4 before you go on to the class reading. You will then see that you move on to the reading for the lesson. So again, let's use lesson 5 as the example. If you are doing lesson 5 reading, you are not required to read the full passage that your CMs have distributed to you for the lesson. Instead, you will focus on the fill in the gap page and use around 20 minutes to make sure that this reading is undergone by filling in the gaps. Once you've completed all of the reading, that is all of the reading you need to do for the entire lesson. You'll then move into your project. It is important to try and move on to your project in day one to allow students enough time to create great projects in lesson 2. Day one, you're going to be focusing more on introducing the project and brainstorming. When you introduce the project, you are going to introduce the whole project. You are going to show the students what you're going to be reviewing for the next lesson and the remainder of this lesson. Once you have introduced the project, just check understanding and make sure that all students are on the same page as you. Following that, the key point of day one here is going to be your brainstorm. You need to support the students well enough for them to create independent projects within the next lesson. These brainstorms can be completed together as a class. They can also be undergone as research tasks. Just remember that all brainstorms completed should be reviewed together. If time allows, I would strongly advise that you begin your project. Even if this is only 5 minutes, make sure that you have your groups ready and make sure that they've started to plan how they're going to undergo the project for day 2. The more time the students have on the project, the better the outcome will be for you when you do the CTP. Then when you come back to day 2, you'll see here, again, you will greet and attend, make sure all the students have the relevant materials. You may also need to catch up any students that were absent for the last lesson. This refresh and review will again help to support any students that were missing for the last lesson. The review for day 2 should focus on the project that was introduced here, alongside some of the brainstorming points that you underwent as a class. You should also try and add in a couple of reading questions. This is because otherwise the students have to remember the reading from 2 weeks ago. That is a lot of information for students to try and retain over a long period of time. If your students are not completing their reading as homework, they may have forgotten what they covered in the last lesson. So please just ask a few questions about the reading, as well as introducing the project again and doing a little bit of brainstorming recap. Your students are then going to have a large amount of time to complete their project. During this time, you should be using timers and you should be checking students' progress throughout. Make sure you circulate the room and make sure that all of the students are playing an active role within their group. You'll see here, again, they're still finishing up their project. If you have time, introduce a skill practice. For example, you should look at how to speak loudly, how to speak clearly, or general presentation style. Following that, the last part of any V1 lesson will be to record the students. The time allocated here has been 20 minutes. However, if you have a class of 16 students, it is going to take you longer to record the CTP. If you have a class of 4 students, it's going to take you a lot less time than 20 minutes to record the video. Please allow for day 2 to be flexible based upon your student numbers. These guidelines are a rough estimation for a class of approximately 8 to 12 students. If you have more or less students, you will have different times for your lesson. If you have more than 12 students, you will need to begin this CTP recording probably with 30 to 40 minutes to go. If you have less, you're probably only going to need 10 to 15 minutes. So if you are unsure about the class structure, please reach out to the 4.0 manager and they will help to advise you on timings for your class.